Cosby, and I know you're going to love this here, President Cosby, and then I'm done. I know what they wonder. What else can we do to them? We have tried it all. Nothing seems to work. Enslaved for 100 years, that didn't break them. Black codes, that didn't break them. Jim Crow, that didn't break them. Lynchings, that didn't break them. Mass incarceration, that didn't break them. What manner of people is this? We have tried everything, and still they rise. We have committed every possible atrocity we can think of, and still they rise. We have disenfranchised them, and still they rise. Made it illegal for them to read. They went on to be the presidents of HBCUs. Still they rise. We redlined them, and still they rise. We placed them in food deserts, and still they rise. We dropped crack in their communities, and still they rise. We divided up their families, and still they rise. We denied them adequate health care, and still they rise. Denied them reparations, and still they rise. We broke down their institutions, and still they rise. How? How is it possible that they are still standing?
Grand rising, beautiful family, welcome back to my YouTube commentary. Today I need to address the truth. There's one truth that I have been thinking to talk about with you. I think white people or white supremacy is shocked because of black people adaptability. I think they are uncomfortable, okay? And this truth shocks everyone because they have tried to break black people for centuries, but we are still here. We are still stronger, we are still wiser, we are still louder, and we are still bolder. Just think about this. Every system they designed was created with one mission, and that mission was to destroy and erase our culture as black people. That mission was to erase or to crush the confidence of black people. That mission was to make black people forget who we really are. Slavery was not by accident. Slavery was not just about free labor. It was about breaking the African spirit. Colonial wasn't just about resources. It was about stealing memory, stealing language, and erasing identity. Come to think of Jim Crow law, it wasn't just about segregation. It was psychological welfare to convince black people that we are less human. Come to apartheid. It wasn't just political system. It was an experiment in humiliation to make us doubt our worth. Now, the truth is, we adapted each and every of this. But before I go down on that video, I have more to say on my commentary. I have a lot that I want to talk with you on this. We need to know this truth. But before I do that, I want you to watch these clips and then we'll come back. We continue.
I just want to start off by saying that I feel really weird doing this video, but I have to because last night God came to me and it's a lot. It's a lot. And I remembered it's like I remembered everything as God was explaining this to me. So God explained to me that black people are the chosen people. Why? Because black people have had to stand up to authorities more than anyone. And if you think about what that means, standing up to authorities isn't really fighting them. It's telling them, hey, like, you're not treating me right. You're not above me. Right? It's another way of saying God created all of us equally. And that's the truth. If you think about it, the government authorities, they're not above you. They're just playing a role. They're wearing a costume. But true freedom, which is what we were created with, is such that everyone is on an equal playing field. If you removed the systems, the government, we're all equal. No one is above you. No one is below you. And so that's why black people are the chosen people, because they've had to do that more than anyone. And what else was I shown? Man, there was so much, you guys. But they showed me why black people love Jesus is because Jesus doesn't need praise. Jesus just came as a messenger, as God, to tell people that black people are the chosen people. Basically, Jesus came here to tell the people. He didn't want any credit. He just wanted to tell people black people are the chosen people. So, yeah. I remembered all of this last night, and it was a lot, but that's what's happening today. Sorry, there's one more thing that God told me last night that I almost forgot. God told me that Jesus's soul is like black. It's like a black person because Jesus stands up to authorities too. And so the soul of black people and the soul of Jesus is the same. And so Jesus comes as a messenger to tell the people, trust me, I don't know why I'm the one getting this information, but Jesus comes to tell the people that black people are the chosen ones, that their soul is the closest thing to God, because God wants people to know that they're free, that that's their birthright, that your birthright is to stand up to authorities and be like, hey, you're not above me. We're brothers. Like, we're the same. We're equals. So yeah, that's all. I love you.
Why do we call them black people when they're more different shades of brown? And I asked her, why do people treat them differently or call them names? Like, what does this mean? Why is this happening? And how do you explain race and racism to a child that is under the age of 6 in a way that they can understand? Because obviously they're not going to be able to comprehend or grasp the entirety of the depth of what racism really truly is. So how do you explain that to a child? She knew that I loved my brownies and my cookies baked a little bit longer than you're supposed to, because the crispy edge of the brownie was always my favorite. And I loved when the chocolate chip cookie was a little bit crispy on the outside and a little gooey on the inside. And that was the perfect way to bake the cookies and bake the brownies. So she used that analogy. And yes, it sounds crazy, but as a 4-year-old child, it made perfect sense. And she used that analogy and she said, you know how you like your cookies and your brownies baked a little bit extra? That's kind of what God did with black people. He took more time and more love into creating black people. And that's why they're a little bit darker than you. He just baked them a little bit longer. That's how she described race to me. And she said that anybody who talks badly about them or is mean to them is just jealous. So right away, I was kind of just like completely infatuated and just in awe of black people, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it like to be God's favorite? What is it like to, you know, just be loved a little bit more from God? Like, I just thought it was incredible and amazing. And so I always just gravitated towards black people because I was like, oh my God, like they're so lucky. Do they know how lucky they are? Like, how cool is it that God spent a little bit more time on them? It's just, I was fascinated by it. And
I want to try and explain to you all what's going on. White people. This is for white people. I want to try and get through to you and make you understand, because a lot of these pieces didn't click till I was 50 years old, because they've been so diabolical. The powers that be have been so diabolical that you can't overtly see what they've been doing. It's all been done under the guise of this, that, and the next, in the guise of capitalism. Now here's the thing. When I didn't realize, my grandpa used to tell me I could have went to college, but I couldn't afford the books. Well, in 1964, the civil rights movement, black people were allowed to go to college now. So they started going to college, and it was free. But the white supremacists said, oh no, they can't have college. And that's why you have big ass student loans now, because they couldn't let black people go to college. Do you see? Under the guise of capitalism. Are you angry yet? Go look up your student loan, how much you owe. All right? It's because they couldn't let black people go to for free. So now we all gotta suffer. When they take it from one person, they take it from everybody. Do you remember the racial profiling since the inception of the police? How they racially profiled black people? Yeah, they did that because a felony means that the black people can't vote. They were robbing these people of their voting rights. And look what they're doing to women today with the SAVE Act, trying to eliminate our voting rights. Do you see how that correlates between it happens to black people, it's going to happen to you too? So this is what they don't want you to realize, and that's why I said it's diabolical. They've been so sneaky, and the deception is deeply, like, you have to go down rabbit holes to try and figure out that this is why they did this. Everything is against black people, but then it's against us too. Do you know Medicare, 20% that has to be paid? Do you know why? Because they didn't want black people having it. They figured they wouldn't use the Medicare because you had to pay 20% to use it. So black people wouldn't use it, so let's tag on 20%. It used to be free. Medicare used to be free. Could you imagine that? Now my hospital emergency room visit is $90 because they were racist. Do you see the correlation that I'm trying to tell you? It's not all these laws that are passing. It's white supremacist KKK members that got into the churches, and somebody had the idea to start the abortion thing. And they said, that's how we're going to get church people to start voting for Republicans. And they brainwashed everybody. Go look it up.
Black people have superpowers. Let me tell you why. Think about it, yeah. If life is a game, then being black is like the highest level, like your game, like the player of the game, like the highest form of the creation of the hilly-pillification. Like, it just, if you think about it, yeah, being black, yeah, in any industry, whether it's rapping, football, being an athlete, influencing, modeling, whatever it is, they're just winning. They take everyone's gal, they got beautiful skin, they can eat anything, and like it's their genes, it's their DNA. Like they're just winning. I just, like, it's not fair, but like it's fair because it makes sense. Like if reincarnation is real, I can't lie to you. I'm gonna be like, yo, this time I want to be black. Like when I incarnate again, like I want to feel what it feels like. Get me, like, bruv, I can't lie.
The world is becoming more African. A super interesting article by the New York Times talks about how 1 in 4 people will be African by the year 2050. This article really highlighted a huge movement that is going on right now. What's happening is that Africa is having a baby boom, which has made it the youngest and fastest growing population on Earth. The median age on the African continent is 19, and for comparison, in the US, it's 38. So not only is the population growing, but this means that Africa's reach is growing as well. We see this in the music industry with artists selling out huge arenas in New York and London. There were more African artists on red carpets than ever before this year. We see this happening in the fashion industry. African fashion is becoming huge in fashion capitals like Paris and Milan. And we also see the effects of this politically with countries like Russia and China and the United States wanting to tap into Africa's growth. But it is important to acknowledge that with all of this growth also comes increased potential for vulnerability and exploitation. Regardless, it's so interesting to be watching this shift happen in real time. You can just feel that there is significant history being made right now.
Talking about how there's a race war coming. He's called me whitewashed. He's talking about how, yeah, there are issues within the black community, but there are also issues with racist attacks on us. And I want y'all to understand that the oppressed black mind is experiencing a level of paranoia that is training itself to sabotage itself and all of its surroundings. Y'all just don't know how demonic spirits work, okay? Your minds and your psyches and your spirits have been so broken, so destroyed systematically that you see the world through a very hurt, broken perspective. Your paradigm is skewed. The race war that you all just know is going to happen will be initiated from you all. These white people don't care that much about us. At this point, they really just want to not be bothered by our weirdness and by our brokenness. It does not matter how we got here. The point is that we're here now, and we are broken, and we are paranoid, and our violence is out of control, and we want to be convinced that it's still the white people doing it. It hasn't been the white people doing it for decades now. Listen to the music, watch our shows, watch our movies, observe our kids, observe our family structures. Look around, y'all. I know tens of black people who have been unalived. Ain't not one of them been unalived by a white person. I don't know one black person has been unalived by a white person. Every single one of them, including my 10-year-old student who I lost in a drive-by shooting, lost their life to another black person. We have internal issues that need to be resolved. The paranoia is going to make things far worse. The paranoia is already making things far worse. Y'all are bringing the issues to your front door. You all are creating these issues. This is an oppressed mind. It was systematically done. Yes, it was intentionally done. But now you all are perpetuating the issues. White people don't have to do anything anymore. We're doing it all. Okay? They're minding their business. And they really wish we would get it together because broken black people are ruining all of America. Okay? It's not just us. We're a small percentage of the country, but we have a huge impact on the country, a huge impact. And they really wish we would get it together because though we are such a small percentage, we have such a huge impact. It's annoying to them. Ain't nobody trying to break us but us.
The goalpost is constantly moved once a black person is overachieving. One thing they're going to do is move the goalpost if a black person is exceeding expectations. Like, it literally happens all the time. It happens in the workplace. It happens in media and really music, from what I'm really thinking about, and awards, literally elections, the presidency, like achievements, period. It seems like the goalpost is always moved when black people are achieving or really succeeding. Like when they burned down Tulsa, quite literally. Black Wall Street, burnt that down, got rid of it because what? Black people were achieving, overachieving, and then goalposts were moved. Just like with taxes and, oh my God, literally basically the whole system in general. Every goalpost seems to be moved when a black person is exceeding expectations, when they are succeeding in a big way. And I've always noticed that, and it's crazy.
When we're talking about the global stage, the leader of the most trends, the creators to the most trends, the trendsetters of the world, a lot of people like to say America got it. America got it when it comes to that, right? But in my opinion, as a Haitian girly, y'all gotta be more specific. It's not America, it's African Americans. African Americans. And we're not talking about the people who patented the trend. Because if we're gonna be honest, a lot of our trends derive from Africa. The roots are in Africa. We're talking about the people who make it pop. We're talking about the people who put their little spin on it, and it's their little spin that the rest of the world wants to copy. All of that belongs to African Americans. Give them their credit. Now, I say all of that in response to the current controversy that's surrounding a very popular streamer. His name is Kai Cenat. He's of Trinidadian and Haitian descent. And in one of his past streams, he took to get into the chat and explaining that his belief was that African American and Black people did not have any culture. Obviously, we could tell that that is a very ignorant statement. But one thing that was actually starting to get under my skin was a lot of you Caribbean kids acting as though we were not all brought up on that same mindset. Acting as though we were not brought up off that same mindset. Y'all are in the comments talking about how he's so ignorant. And while a lot of us, me included, we re-educated ourselves. We reconditioned ourselves. Just like they heard bad stuff about us, we heard bad stuff about them. And if you just take away the African part and everything that Kai was saying, he's correct. Especially when we're talking about the Americans that are descendants of pilgrims. The American people who are the descendants of the pilgrims, the British pilgrims that came over here, they do not, in fact, have any culture. He wasn't wrong. He was wrong when he said African Americans, and it was ignorant on his part. Let's be honest. Like I said, African Americans are the trendsetters of the world. They are. Even if something was already going on, the minute an African American person gets their hands on it, they make that shit fire every single time. Like, you gotta give credit where credit is due. Right now, I live in Brooklyn, Flatbush. My lingo, African American. African American. My style, African American. You feel me? You feel me? Like, African American. Everything. A lot of the things that they do, soul food, that came from slaves having to turn scraps into fucking 5-course meals. You feel me? 5-star course meals, to the point where now chitlins is considered a delicacy. Y'all was literally feeding these Black people here in America shit, and they turned that shit into gold, to the point where now it's a fucking delicacy. This is what I mean by African American people are the fucking trendsetters. Like, we gotta give credit where credit is due. They are. But please stop acting like, especially to the Caribbean kids who have now grown up, if you're a millennial, do not act like you wasn't taught that same type of rhetoric growing up. It's now that we've gotten older, we realize it's not the African Americans. It was never the African Americans. It's the Americans that are of British pilgrimage fucking descent. They are the ones that have no fucking culture. But the African Americans, oh baby, they got it.
Welcome back. Let me start on the slave ships. They stripped us of our languages. On slave ships, they stripped everything. But you know what we did as Black people? We invented new one, okay? When they stripped our language, we invented Creole. We invented Patois. Invented some vernacular. With African Americans, invented vernacular English. They took away drums in America because drums were communication. And they feared that we would organize rebellions. But we turned our voices into drums. Spirituals, blues, gospel, and jazz were born out of pain. Every time they shut one door, we created another way out. And that's what I call adaptability. That is resilience. Is why they are shocked. White supremacy functions on the behalf or on the belief that if you apply enough pressure, the oppressed will eventually collapse. But let me tell you, with Black people, it is the opposite. It is the opposite. The more they press, the more they rise with us, the more they attack us, the more we adapt, and the more they try to erase us, is the more we innovate. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is reality. Okay? Simple example is on sports, because they never wanted us in their arenas. For example, they never wanted us in golf. They never wanted us in basketball. They never wanted us in football, in tennis. All of these arenas were designed as a white-dominated space. But the moment we stepped in, we adapt. The moment we stepped in, we did not just participate. We dominated. We stepped or we adapted to every game and made it our own game. For example, Muhammad Ali is an example. Didn't just box. He turned the boxing into an art. Serena Williams didn't just play tennis, but she redefined tennis. Tiger Woods didn't just play golf, but he shook the very foundation of the white country club world. And that's a shock. They thought that these were their spaces, but we came in and we conquered. We came in, we terrorized, and we conquered. And that is what happened. Now, I'll say this. When you look at the ghetto cities or the ghetto towns are designed for us black people to fail. But when you look at the ghettos from your perspective, the townships, these are environments designed to suffocate black people because they have poor schools, they have poor healthcare, they have poor housing. But instead of collapsing, black people created culture in those very places. Hip-hop came out of ghetto. Hip-hop came out of ghetto. Reggae music came out of townships somewhere in South Africa. Kwaito came out of South Africa. Townships. Okay? Afrobeats came out of Lagos. And it is trending music worldwide. You know? What they designed as a death zones became birthplace of culture that the entire world now consumes. And that's not luck. That's what we call adaptability. You see, when other groups face extreme oppression that like we do as black people, they will fracture. They will disperse. They will disappear. They assimilate. Okay? But black people, whether in America, in Caribbean, in Latin America, or in Africa, resist erasure and we hold on, we adjust to everything, we create new moves, and that's what scares them. White people are shocked because they have been waiting for centuries for us to despair. They have been waiting for centuries for us to disappear. Okay? But we are here. They have been waiting for the chains to break us. They have been waiting for poverty to silence us. They have been waiting for the prison to erase us. But you know what happened? We turned prisons into places of poetry. We turned poverty into creativity. We turned chains into symbols of survival. Let's not forget every religion. When they forced Christianity on enslaved Africans, they thought that they were destroying our African spirituality. But we adapted Christianity and we took it and turned it into something new. We turned it into liberation theology. We fused it with African fire. We fused the Christianity with African rhythm, with African power, and we took the Bible and found freedom in the very book they used for oppression. And that's what I call adaptability. We adapted their spirit. So I'll say this, family. I have the strongest evidence to share with you, and that is slavery. Slavery destroyed families deliberately, because selling mothers away from children's husbands, away from wives, yet somehow we rebuilt kingship in the harshest conditions. We made family where there was none. And that's why even today you see black communities where aunties, grandmothers, cousins, neighbors all play roles as parents. And that's not a weakness. That is a strength. And that's what we call adaptability. They are shocked because they realize that black people's spirit is like water, and water cannot be broken. It only shifts, it only reshapes, it only changes the flows. It finds new paths even in hilly ways. Water finds new paths, and that is us black people. You can freeze water, yes. You can boil it, yes. You can block it, but you cannot destroy it, and that's what the black spirit is. Let me tell you, they are not just shocked, because shocking is simple. They ain't just shocked, they are scared. Because adaptability is not just survival, it's a power that one who can adapt it is the one who can outlast. For example, empires rise and fall, okay? Rome Empire rised but fall. France colony rised but fall. Britain Empire rises but it falls. So the one who survives, the ones who survives are the ones who bend without breaking. Economies can shift, they can shift, politics can change, you know? But you know what? Black people have always done one thing. We change with the change. We adapt with what you want us to be. That's not weakness. That is power. Nobody has the same power. It's only black people. Take the white people. Take the Latin people, brown people, Asian people, Arab people. They can adapt. They cannot adapt to anything. But we are strong, okay? We are strong. When you look at the history, Europe had the golden ages. They rose, they fall. So, but Africa is here. They colonized Africa, but we are still here. It is rising again. The youth of Africa are rising again. They enslaved black Americans. They did everything. They are still here. They segregated them. They inculcated them. They chained them. They did everything. But black Americans are rising again. The Caribbean was exploited, starved, underdeveloped, and still Caribbeans are rising again. And this is what shocks them so much, because they ask themselves, how is this possible, man? How can this be possible? We try everything, but these guys are still here, still strong. We as black people are the people of rhythm. We are the people of innovation, the people of survival, are the blueprint of human endurance. And that's why every culture, black people. That's why the whole world copies us, our music, our dance, our slang, our fashion, because we adapt so quickly and we create trends faster than they cannot control. And I need every black person listening to me right now. I need each and every one of you listening to me. Just know this, your adaptability is not a weakness, it's a divine strength. So don't let systems or don't let anyone tell you that you just survived. No, you conquered survival. You made survival look like an art. Yes, that is the reality. And when I go back to slavery, the darkest experiment in human history, it is slavery, because millions of Africans were stolen. They were chained. They were packed like cargo, stripped their names and stripped off their culture. But you know what? The goal of those guys, or the goals of those oppressors, was to delete us, to strip our memory away. The goal was to break the African spirit and to erase us from the face of the earth and to make us forget that we are the greatest people, that we came from kings and queens. We came from mathematicians and warriors. But what happened during slavery? We did not break, man. We adapted. On those plantations, Africans who didn't even speak the same language created ways to communicate, and they built communities with none existed. They invented music to heal trauma, and they coded escape plan inside inside songs. I know you know the songs, for example, The Word of Wars and The Fall of the Drinking God. They turned oppression into innovation. Now, up to now, have you understood how powerful that is? Imagine being born in chains, forbidden to read, being whipped for speaking your own language, but you still finding ways to love and resist. Do you know how powerful that is? That is divine adaptability. And in the Caribbean, enslaved Africans did the same. They fused African traditions with European instruments and created reggae, created calypso, created soca, and they took colonizer language, English, French, Spanish, into Creole, into Patois. That's not survival. That is being genius, man. Let me tell you the truth. That is what I call transformation. That is what I call genius. It is the same. When you talk about colonization, it was meant to crush nations, okay? It was meant to crush African continent forever. They carved up the continent, they drew borders, they erased borders, they erased history by forced African, or they forced European education into black people, into Africans. They forced European languages. But Africans, what we did, we absorbed it blindly. They bent it. They turned English, French, Portuguese into tools of liberation. Our leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, our leaders like Thomas Sankara, our leaders like Patrice Lumumba, Mandela, they spoke the colonizers' language but used it to do what? To do liberation. And that's what I call adaptability. Now, think about this. When colonial schools tried to erase African identity, Africans used those very schools to learn the system of the colonizer, okay? And only to turn around and challenge them. They studied law to fight colonial law. They studied economics to dismantle the colonial theft. We studied politics as Africans to overthrow colonial governments. And that's not breaking, that's bouncing back. We bounced back. Even in the face of the extreme violence, we adapted the South. You know, in South Africa, for example, apartheid tried to make black people in South Africa a permanent underclass. But what happened? Black people created underground schools, underground churches, underground networks of resistance. And you know what happened? We found ways to live, laugh, sing, and resist in a system designed to suffocate. That's how black people we adapt. That's how black people we adapt. Right now, I see people rising. I see youths rising in Africa. They adapted. They thought that we will live in colonial rule forever. But the youths of Africa rising, I see youths, African content creators are now standing the fact that we need to educate each other. I have seen a lot of content creators. For example, Kenyan Explorer is doing great, trying to teach, a youth like Kenyan Explorer coming on this social media, shaping the way Africa is being looked, because they looked at us like we are less educated. They looked at us that like we have forgot our culture. But that's not us. When you look these content creators, they are trying to change the way we are looking at Africa. And that is why I always say African youths, they are rising. They are rising in ways that we are teaching ourselves. We are educating ourselves. We are getting history at first hand. 5 years back, or let's take 10 years back, you couldn't get any African youth trying to know about history because all we know, it was about white people invented. But right now, when you go to this youth channel, you see them talking about Alec Blan. You see them talking about Kemet. You see them talking about Mali Empire. You see them talking about Sonkai. Why? Because we know the truth right now and we are unlearning all those false information we tried to learn. And that's adaptability I'm talking about. We are adapting in the new era. The Gen Z are adapting the new era and changing everything. We have a lot of YouTube creators, content creators, that are doing a lot of good work, trying to show the world that we are not the same as we were. We were not the same as they think we are. Okay? Let me tell you, adaptability, for example, in the face of violence, black people adapted. Adaptability was not just about survival, or it's not just about survival. It's about keeping the spirit alive for the next generation. And that's why this generation, the Gen Z, have got the spirit. And we will keep it alive to the next generation, Generation X. Because every African enslaved back then, every African colonized knew they might not live to see freedom, but they adapted so their children could. And that's why we are here today. And personally, all I do, maybe I may not see freedom, but I'm adapting so that my children or my grandchildren might see the freedom. Okay? And that's why I am speaking here right now. That's why people like African Streamline are speaking right now. That's why Kenyan Explorers are speaking right now, because we are living for our grandchildren. We are adapting right now so that our grandchildren may see the freedom. We are near freedom. White people are shocked because they thought slavery and colonization will erase us from history. But instead, it became proof that we are internal, that no system, no empire, no oppression can outlast the African spirit. Now, what's happening today, because slavery may have ended, colonization ended, but the system never stops, okay? They just evolved. Jim Crow in America was designed to break black progress after emancipation, okay? What I'm trying to say is that Jim Crow created segregated schools, segregated buses, segregated neighborhoods, all designed to crush ambitions. Black people, what they did, they built their own schools, they built their own business, built their own institutions. Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Rosewood in Florida, thriving black towns across America. And that's what I call adaptability. Even when they bombed, burned, and destroyed those communities, black people rebuilt again. Okay? And that's us. Even when they passed laws to keep us from voting, we marched, we organized, protested. The civil rights movement was adaptability and its highest form. Okay? Using the tools of the oppressor, like the US Constitution, and turning them into weapons of freedom. So, fast forward, in the prison system, mass incarceration is modern slavery. The system was designed to erase black men, to destroy black families, okay? Yet even inside prisons, black people create art, okay? They create art, they write poetry, they study law, organize resilience, and many of the greatest thinkers wrote from prison cells. Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, George Jackson, that's what I call adaptability, okay? They deny us loans as black people. They deny us capital. They redline neighborhoods. I see black people are adapting by creating their own financial system, their own businesses, and their own economic within economies. Look at how black people turned barbershops, hair salons, and churches into economic hubs, into places of knowledge, into centers of culture. That's what I call adaptability. Come on, man. We as black people, we adapt. We do that. Okay? And that's what I love. So I say, my kings and queens, Don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever believe the lie that we are victims, that we are survivors, that we are creators, men. We are innovators. Don't ever believe the lie they told you. Okay? We are not victims. They tried to break us, but they failed. They tried to chain us, but we turned the chains into rhythm. White people are shocked because everything, we are still here and not just here. We are rising, we are glowing, we are leading, we are transforming the world. Okay? Remember this, black people don't break. Just give me an example of black people who have break. We don't break. We don't break. Tell me what you think in the comment section about this video. Until next episode, let's meet with another episode, okay? Peace out.